That's raising big risk. That's raising big risk.
It's 8 p.m. in Banjul. This is the news for the headlines. A 3-year intervention designed to protect Gambian workers whilst ensuring economic advancement, dubbed Decent Work Country program, takes off the ground. Gambian scientists and representatives of stakeholder institutions explore means of promoting research in the Gambia through Partnership for Sustainable Socio-Economic Development. Berlin warns Moscow and Washington against actions that could lead to open conflict. This as the major powers pound towards targets in war-ravaged Syria. And thousands of migrants and refugees continue to pour into Germany against the backdrop of stiff opposition from within the ranks of Chancellor Angela Merkel's governing coalition. These and other stories coming ahead this half hour. I am your presenter, FATOUMATA JOBE. The Decent Work Country program, which covers the period 2015 to 2017, has been launched. The intervention designed to protect workers and ensure greater rewards for their efforts comes courtesy of the International Labour Organization and the Ministry of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment. Aisha Decatur witnessed the launch, and this is her report.
Recent developments in the Gambia socio-economic arena have necessitated the need to sharpen focus on the attainment of decent work for all in the Gambia. It was for this reason that the International Labour Organization, in partnership with the government of the Gambia, under the stewardship of the Ministry of Trade, gathered stakeholders to launch the Decent Work Country Program 2015-2017.
In November 2010, the government, in collaboration with its social partners, namely employers and workers' organizations, embark on the process of activities with the primary objective of putting in place Decent Work Country program for the Gambia.
The DWCP seeks to complement the main thrust of the country's development agenda, which seeks to improve inter alia employment levels, per capita income, social services, gender equity, and the Gambia's economic competitiveness.
We are gathered here today to witness the start of a journey, as already alluded to by Dennis, on which the government of the Gambia is ready and proud to accompany the crusade to reach the ambitious goal of decent work for all women and men in the Gambia. Efforts have been made to establish the necessary regulatory framework, such as regularizing the minimum wage bill through the Joint Industrial Council and publishing in the National Gazette the Occupational Health and Safety Regulations.
The UN system in the Gambia is committed to supporting the government in generating decent work opportunities and to responding to various development challenges. Through the current United Nations Development Framework, UNDAF 2012 to 2016, the UN addresses employment creation under its first pillar on poverty reduction and social protection, specifically under Output 1.3, which is increased employment opportunities for vulnerable groups, including youth, women, refugees, and provide access to enhanced markets.
The Decent Work Program looks at 3 major national priorities, and they include decent and productive employment for sustainable growth and poverty reduction, enhanced social production, health and safety of workers at the workplace, and the elimination of child labor, particularly in its worst form, as well as enhancing socio-economic governance through social dialogue and tripartism.
The priorities identified in these country programs are done and are the prerogative of the member states themselves. And as you know, the ILO works in what is called a tripartite structure, meaning we work with governments, we work with the private sector through the employers' representatives, but we also work with the trade unions who represent the workers. Now it's up to these structures to determine what the priorities are. And after these priorities have been determined, then through discussion and consultation with ourselves, we then decide on how we're going to support these member states in meeting their priorities.
The Decent Work Country program being launched today will be an integral part of the next UNDP framework for the Gambia and is expected to be used by ILO and other UN agencies as an engine for the reduction of poverty and creation of wealth for the citizenry, thereby paving the way towards a more beneficial and inclusive growth for all. Aissatou Keita, GRTS.
Verve International, a Pan-African chip plus PIN payment card company, is seeking to set up shop in the Gambia. The firm, said to be the biggest of its kind in Nigeria, on Wednesday briefed journalists on its operations. Winifred Nicol was there and she reports. Verve International wants to partner with the Central Bank of the Gambia, commercial banks and other financial institutions with a view to ensuring widespread usage of its facility.
Verve International is a card scheme for banks in Africa. The automated scheme is issued by the Pan-African Company, and the automated chip plus PIN payment EMV card is set for use in the Gambia. The group Wednesday convened a joint press briefing with the Central Bank of the Gambia, banks and financial institutions, aimed at driving issuance, usage and acceptance of the Verve card in the Gambia to facilitate a secure Pan-African exchange, as well as promote trade and electronic commerce. Verve International, a Pan-African chip plus PIN payment EMV card, prides itself the biggest payment card in Nigeria, with an estimated 32 million payment tokens across Africa, with the majority of its users based in Nigeria's vast and lucrative market. Interswitch is the parent company, a Pan-African integrated payment processing and transaction switching company.
Africans are very unique people. They like their cards to do so many things for them that are unique within the African environment and African markets. So they are very particular about cost, yet they want a very multifunctional card, a card that will recognize the peculiarities in the African market. So we are very unique in that sense, because first and foremost, we're concerned about the security of transactions in Africa. We're concerned about the currencies of transactions, because transactions have to be settled, and once we are taking cognizance of the domestic currencies in Africa, exchange rate fluctuations and all that. So they all, basically it takes care of the needs of the African market.
Known for its secure, affordability and profitable scheme, 8 of the leading financial institutions in the Gambia have joined other African countries like Nigeria, Kenya and Uganda to launch this payment scheme, which provides convenience and control of cash needs, be it individual or corporate entities.
The benefits of payment cards and electronic-based transactions have become obvious and visible in many countries around the world. It is interesting to note that more recent success stories about electronic payments are being recorded in developing countries, even in Africa. Emerging markets like Kenya, Nigeria, and Ghana, which are similar to ours in the Gambia, are becoming reference points and case studies for other developed economies. This further strengthens the central bank's confidence and resolve to put Gambia on the map of leading electronic payment economies. This can only be achieved if we work together as an industry and if we can get the necessary guidance and support from experienced providers like Verve International.
Verve cards in the Gambia will be used for cash withdrawals from virtually any ATM in the country, and will also be accepted as means for payment at shops and stores, and will usher in new customer payment points and payment experiences, including internet payments, mobile payments, and purchase of airtime and bills.
While the central bank remains steadfast in its desire to promote the growth and adoption of electronic payments in the country, We are also mindful of the critical success factors that are pertinent to realizing this vision. One of such key factors is security. All stakeholders here today have the common responsibility to ensure that users of the electronic payment system can transact safely and are not put at risk of being exploited by fraudsters. The central bank has taken the first bold step by issuing a directive to all commercial banks to begin the conversion of all payment cards and ATMs to a more secure status known as EMV. This effectiveness of EMV security in combating payment card fraud has been proven globally. The EMV chip card provides an enhanced secured standard compared to the previously issued cards. It reduces the exposure to fraudulent exploits from counterfeit or stolen cards.
The hope is that commercial banks and financial institutions in the Gambia joining the VERB scheme and those who have already done so will benefit mutually from the satisfaction that its customers will derive thereof. Reporting for GRTS News, I am Winifred Nicol.
Stakeholders led by the National Disaster Management Agency gathered in the North Bank region on Tuesday to commemorate the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. The theme for 2015 celebrations is Knowledge for Life. The need to include local knowledge in disaster reduction strategies was highlighted in Karawan. We hope to bring you that story in the news at 10. Meanwhile, a national research conference held under the aegis of the Ministry of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology has been focusing on research programs that have a bearing on governance, infrastructure, funding and partnerships. Kumbaba has more on the convergence that had promoting research in the Gambia through partnerships for sustainable socio-economic development as a team.
Promoting research in the Gambia through partnership for sustainable social economic development is the focus of this international conference organized by the Ministry of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology. The meeting is aimed at providing a platform for national and international researchers to share experience as well as create an efficient roadmap for the formulation of policy research systems in the Gambia. The presence of these international experts and stakeholders from South Africa and Senegal will provide tangible results in the promotion of research in the Gambia and Africa at large, as issues surrounding the African continent will be discussed during the session to identify standing activities in the field of higher education and research.
The first time ever in the history of our country, dear nation, that the National Research Conference in the Gambia is being organized. These two-day convergence, where the relations are going to center around a well-thought-out theme, which is promoting research in the Gambia through partnerships for sustainable socio-economic development, is significant. And up to, like the Permanent Secretary, Dr. Barry mentioned, for an international forum of this nature. It's no more a national forum, but it's an international forum.
The head of the South African delegation highlighted the need for effective collaboration to develop an efficient working system in promoting research and innovation in Africa.
That the relationship between the two countries remains strong, but more importantly, the utilization of science and technology and innovation to the betterment of our people remains a priority.
This conference is set to be timely when African countries are on the move to promote sustainability of research. The Senegalese representative, however, assured their continued support and partnership.
And all these efforts are geared toward improving the life of the people. And this cannot be done without domesticating science and technology. Therefore, I think it's very important that this conference is being held.
The participation of this high-profile delegation to discuss partnership promotion and issues hindering the advancement of research and innovation in Africa will have a great impact on local experts towards the achievement of all sustainable development goals in the Gambia. Kumaba, GRTS News.
We will be back with news from outside the Gambia after this break. Stay tuned.
International, dealers in general merchandise, brings you unbeatable offers. KGI has in stock quality onions, cooking oil in 20-liter gallons, and quality Dutch potatoes. Our products are of high standard and prices are affordable. Rush now while stock lasts to KGI sales outlets located at the KGI headquarters, Traffic Lights Junction, or at Jimpex Canifing next to EcoBank, or in Banjul. For more information, call KGI on 996-5776 or 7600-231 or 911-8269. KGI International, making goods affordable to all.
Welcome back. Meanwhile, tensions remain high in Syria. Russia's defense minister said it will hold a video conference with U.S. military officials to discuss their respective air campaigns in Syria. The announcement came after U.S. and Russian jets flew within several kilometers of each other during separate airstrikes on Saturday. Now, Washington has ruled out military cooperation with Moscow, but the two sides are working together on safety procedures. Germany's foreign minister has today warned the two countries they must avoid acting in a way that could lead to a conflict between them. DW has more on that.
As Russia intensifies its bombing in Syria, the U.S. continues its airstrikes. Jets from the two countries came within visible range of each other on Saturday. That's raising big risks. The two nations' jets could collide. An American jet might shoot down its Russian counterpart, or vice versa. Moscow and Washington say they're ready to talk, but they won't agree a joint strategy. Russia blames the U.S. on that point. Washington responded to our proposals to agree shared steps by saying they would not be able to send or receive a delegation, because our American colleagues are only interested in agreeing steps that would help avoid incidents. Washington accuses Russia of primarily targeting moderate rebels with its airstrikes and not the Islamic State. This amateur video appears to show the aftermath of a Russian bombing near Aleppo. President Vladimir Putin has criticized the U.S. for not working with Russia despite the shared goal of beating back Islamic State. But he insists Russia won't be deterred and will battle international terrorism until that threat has been eliminated. Russia's intervention in Syria is having an impact. But the U.S. military says Russia's true priority is supporting the regime of Bashar al-Assad. It accuses Moscow of making the situation worse.
They've claimed publicly that they want to fight ISIL. In reality, these reckless, these indiscriminate, these irresponsible airstrikes have had the effect and will have the effect only of prolonging the suffering of the Syrian people.
Moscow says it's still aiming for a political solution to the conflict. But at the same time, Russia says it's prepared to expand its Syrian campaign as needed. The diplomatic rift between Russia and the U.S. remains a big hurdle to ending the Syrian conflict.
Germany's intake of refugees is a divisive issue in the country. Chancellor Angela Merkel is facing opposition from inside her own coalition over what is now a controversial issue. And this week has seen more anti-immigration rallies in several eastern German cities, with the biggest held in Dresden. But how are people everywhere in Germany coping with the thousands of new arrivals? Well, one village seems to be managing very well. We have more in this DW report.
These old military barracks in the middle of Germany have been converted into a refugee center. More than 2,000 people from around 20 different countries live here. The town was given 2 days to renovate these buildings in preparation for the new arrivals. Many residents from the village of Oebke pitched in to help. The response from people living in the area has been fantastic. We asked for help and by the weekend had over 90 volunteers. We continue to receive a lot of donations. Everything that you see here, this was all donated from people living in this area. Today it's normal to see a group of young Syrians laughing while walking down Oebke's streets.
Erbke was a sleepy village up until now. But since the refugees have arrived, there's a bit more life here and in surrounding communities. The fact that there are more refugees than locals in some places doesn't seem to bother anyone.
We have enough space. They can come and rest a bit. Nobody's against that. At least I'm not.
I haven't had any bad experiences. Some of them even say hi when walking by. It has changed our town a lot. Now there's always people sitting on the benches. But we still have a lot of space here in Erbke, and we have to use it. That's what I think. And there hasn't been any problems. The local government has tried to make the move to Erbke as smooth as possible for the refugees. But it is not always easy. Most of the refugees are young men, whereas most of the locals are older. Many are retired. This telephone shop is one of the few places where locals and refugees run into each other. The owner of the shop is himself a Kurd. His family comes from the Middle East. He speaks Kurdish with some of the refugees, but is skeptical Germany can integrate everyone.
I think it's going to be a problem. I mean, if they all stay, it's definitely going to be a problem.
Only time will tell how things will develop. The government has already announced plans to relocate more refugees to Erbke in the coming weeks.
We now go to Africa, and at least 7 people have died in a bomb attack in northeastern Nigeria. It is suspected that Boko Haram is behind the blast. Now the so-called Islamist terrorist group has taken control of large parts of the northeast. But in recent months, the Nigerian military has been able to recapture more and more territory. A DW correspondent visited the town of Mubi, where Boko Haram had been exactly 1 year ago. But as we hear in this report, things are not expected to be back to normal for a long time to come.
His house lies in ruins. The pastor once lived here with his family, but that was before Boko Haram came and attacked his hometown of Mubi. Nadahi was barely able to get his family to safety in the last minute.
What I've been laboring for many, many years, I lost them within just a fraction of a time. So I feel it very bad. All the church documents and the church vehicles and the property we have all burnt down.
Since then, the church next door has reopened, but churchgoers have yet to return. Members of the Christian community have become more cautious.
We have over 137 churches that have been burnt in this area. So we are looking at it this way. Who did it? Whose children are there? It is no Christian that did it. So we are skeptical about the religion.
The Emir of Mubi is the city's highest-ranking Muslim authority. He also had to flee from Boko Haram because the terrorist group also kills moderate Muslims. But since the army's liberation of the city, he no longer sees any conflicts.
If you come to one house, you will find that the junior brother is a Muslim, the senior brother is a Christian. Will these people fight? So Mubi is unique. About religion problem, we have no problem.
But Chawulu Nadahi, seen here in this temporarily rebuilt church, sees things differently.
It will take a long time for them to forget about this issue, because some of the things that our children have seen, their father are being slaughtered even on their presence. But gradually, we believe we tend to forget it and accept one another once more.
The pastor has preached forgiveness to his congregation more frequently in recent months than before. And in spite of all the suffering, he hasn't lost hope for the future.
We take our second break now. We'll be right back. It's now time to get the weather report from the Central Forecast Office.
Everything as you know it starts here. That simple promise of a harvest after planting is nature's service to the community that you and I are a part of. We carry on bonding and sharing because the feeling to serve is mutual. But that promise between us, the sun and the land, is what gives us the hope to carry on. And as it was in the beginning, we started with a belief to serve. Elton, a new vision of service.
Good evening, viewers, and welcome to the weather forecast. A variable cloud and humid condition with rain and thunderstorm affected the entire country, and the rainfall figures are as follows. Sibano recorded the highest with 113.9 millimeters, Karawang 41 millimeters, Fototo 34.9 millimeters, Banjul 33.5 millimeters, Basa 18.9 millimeters, Benjamburi 16.1 millimeters, Kawur 11.7 millimeters, Yundum 5.3 millimeters, and Sapu 5 millimeters. Satellite image shows convective cloud over part of Gulf of Guinea, likewise over part of central and eastern part of Africa. There is also a cell over the Senegambia region, which is causing the present weather condition. Tonight, the weather is expected to be variable cloud and humid with rain and thunderstorm over places. While for the day tomorrow, the weather is expected to be cloudy with isolated thundery rain. Surface wind across the country will mainly be southerly, and the speed will be 5 kilometers per hour. Minimum temperatures across the country will be 25 degrees Celsius over the Greater Banjul and West Coast, 24 over North Bank and Lower River, and 23 over Central and Upper River region. Maximum temperatures will be 30 degrees Celsius over the Greater Banjul, 32 over West Coast, North Bank and Lower River, 33 over Central, and 31 over Upper River region. Low tide will be 0.3 meter at 5 a.m. and also at 5 p.m. High tide will be 1.6 meter at 11 a.m. and 1.7 meter at 11 p.m. Wave will be about 1 to 2 meters southeasterly swells. The sun will rise at 5 minutes to 7 in the morning and set at 18:47 in the evening. We thank you for watching and good night.
And before we take leave of you, a recap of the main stories. A 3-year intervention designed to protect Gambian workers whilst ensuring economic advancement, dubbed Decent Work Country program, has taken off the ground. Gambian scientists and representatives of stakeholder institutions have been exploring means of promoting research in the Gambia through Partnership for Sustainable Socio-Economic Development. Berlin has warned Moscow and Washington against actions that could lead to open conflict. This as the major powers pound targets in war-ravaged Syria. And thousands of migrants and refugees are continuing to pour into Germany against the backdrop of stiff opposition from within the ranks of Chancellor Angela Merkel's governing coalition. That was all in this edition of the news. Thanks for the pleasure of your company. Do stay with us. I was your presenter, FATOUMATA. From the news team, have a great evening.